Welcome in. We are finally here. The moment has finally dawned. It is Proving Grounds time, and I am so ready for this. It's been months of action, but it's all been leading up to this moment. I'm Mad Magical, joined in by Sam Cage and the Rage Ragey. Sam, it's always good to be back with you casting on anything.
Dude, it's the Mad Magical Cage in the Rage lane. We know how it's gonna go. It's gonna be some cast, it's gonna be some rap god, it's gonna be some what the heck am I even talking about? But we are here, and we are live, and we have got some Proving Grounds to start us off today.
That we do, and I think it's only appropriate that we introduce everyone to the bracket and let them know exactly what is going to be going on throughout all of this, because there's a lot that we need to cover. There's going to be a lot of intense gameplay. It's double elim. We're starting off the day hot with Cloud9 Academy up against Dignitas Mirage, and honestly, all of these games, I feel like it's all going to be really exciting because so many of these teams have played for so long, like I said, all the way back from January to lead up to this moment in so many intense different tournaments to try to see if they can compete with the best.
The last 2 weeks alone have had 3 different tournaments, Magical, including 5 teams that have just recently competed in order to get into this Proving Grounds. Dignitas Mirage, the 16th seed, the last one to come in. Very excited to see how they match up against Cloud9 Academy. But just to give this whole picture some context, this is a quarter of the bracket.
Yes.
We still have so many more games to play after this. And as you said, double elim. So if one team gets knocked out after a single best of 3, they're coming back.
Exactly, and this is the other part of it, so you can all see exactly where everything is going to be lining up. It is, like we said, lots and lots of awesome gameplay, and honestly, I'm just excited to see these players, these teams that have spent so long trying to prepare for this moment. We had 10 Academy teams at the start and 10 Academy teams entering this in, with 6 additional teams throughout all of the different Tier 1, Tier 2 tournaments that have been leading up to this moment to try to see how they're going to be able to compete against these Academy teams that we've already seen how they're able to perform before, but now it's how do they perform against teams that are trying to prove themselves and really want to be able to usurp them and be able to get themselves into Academy.
And really, it's just going to be a battle at the top because not only do we have these great Academy teams that have been playing all season, but the amateur teams that have been showing up, particularly in the Unified Grand Prix. I was so amazed at the action that I was able to see, and also the last couple tournaments showing up so much. There's a reason that these teams are playing against the Academy teams, and that's because they've brought the skill, they have everything they need, and I think we're going to have a great tournament as this goes on, Magical.
I do as well, but we got to start off with one day at a time. So why don't we take a look at today's schedule? I already kind of alluded to it, that we're going to be starting off with the number 1 versus number 16 seed in Cloud9 Academy, taking on Dignitas Mirage. That is going to be a big game coming in for Dignitas Mirage. You already kind of alluded to how they were able to make it in the last chance qualifier. Now to go up against the number 1 Academy team. I'm excited to see how they're going to be able to go into this, but this is definitely a David versus Goliath story.
And really, it's just going to be how much can Dignitas Mirage show up, because they have played many different tournaments. They succeeded in several of them, even the ones that didn't technically count towards the Proving Grounds. I think this is going to be a team that surprises most members of the audience, because even if they don't take a game away from Cloud9 Academy, which could happen, I think we're going to see some really strong laning, and we're also going to see some very technical skill coming out of this team.
I'm also interested to see how Cloud9 Academy are going to be able to play this one. It's been a while since we've actually seen them in a competitive game. All the way back, I think it was February 17th was the last time that they actually were up on the Rift, and something that we got to see. So now, going up against Dignitas Mirage, a team that has been well vetted throughout all of these different Tier 1, Tier 2s, and wanting to be able to prove themselves. So this would be a hell of a way to do it, taking down the number 1 Academy team. Maybe they're not as prepped for them, especially because we know how Dignitas Mirage are. They have a lot of these pocket picks that they like to hold on to, especially for Dragoon.
Yeah, Dragoon's Darius has been banned away virtually every single time I've ever seen this man play, and the one time that I did see is Darius. Ugh, I can see why they ban it every single time. So let's see if Cloud9 Academy is going to ban that away, because honestly, Dragoon is a monster of a top laner, and I feel like into Darshan, it's going to be a pretty fun matchup. But the matchup I want to think about the most, Magical, is that bot lane. King and Isles versus Meech and King.
Yep. We realized that beforehand, that we were going to have 2 kings on each side, so hopefully not going to be too confusing. But we'll find out who's going to be the real royalty in that bot lane. But I do want to talk about this bot lane, because when we look at Meech and King, the King on Dignitas Mirage, that is, they, again, are players that like to have their really comfortable picks. Like Caitlyn was one that we were kind of talking about. We're starting to see a bit of a resurgence in the meta right now, but it's something that they're more than confident playing. Even when Caitlyn wasn't meta, Meech still liked to grab that.
And I feel like Meech, more often than not, just has great performances, even if his team doesn't win the match. Like, more often than not, you see his Kai'Sa, you see his Caitlyn. I think those two picks in particular are going to be dynamic ones in this particular matchup. King, on the other hand, as a great engaged support, sometimes decides to go a little off kilter, and it hasn't been met with the most success, but I still feel like that's something they have in their pocket, and maybe they can find an opportunity to use it in this matchup against Cloud9.
Especially going up against the other King and Isles, who have been considered some of the best bot lane duo in the academy scene that we've seen for some time. Coming over from Oceania, you kind of expect that these players are going to know what they're doing. In fact, both players having gone over to Worlds before, being able to really prove their stuff. I'm really interested to see how Meech and King are going to be able to hold their own against these two players. Since you already have Isles, who likes to play engaged supports as well. King is someone who likes to play very aggressively. And this is a lane where Surenfire probably is going to spend a lot of time. In fact, you look at the kill participation, it's usually all around that bot lane. They always try to see if they can get that ahead, knowing that Darshan's going to be fine on an island.
But you also have to think about Dignitas Mirage coming in. They're trying to make bot lane plays themselves. More often than not, Hayami, Dragoon, DNA, they're all focusing on that bot side. And so we're going to have to really look out for whether or not Dignitas is going to play around that bot side or try to get Dragoon ahead as much as possible in the early game so that he can eventually go bot side.
Right, and one of the interesting things is that Dragoon does like to play around the bot side as well, TPing into that bot lane to be able to help them out.
Yeah, it's definitely a play that the Dignitas Mirage has more or less perfected over the last few weeks, and especially over the last few tournaments that they've played, bringing Dragoon down no matter what play they're making, making sure that teleport is always available. So if Cloud9 Academy wants to get that early advantage, they probably want to hit the top side and force out their teleport as fast as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Especially as we're getting ready to jump into Champion Select between these two for our first matchup here in the Proving Grounds. Number 1 versus number 16 seed. Let's hop into it.
All right, so Darius ban, they did the research. It's been done. We know what's going to happen, folks. And that Hecarim ban also coming out against Hayami. It is definitely a power pick in the current meta, and Surenfire, he hasn't looked particularly like good or bad on it. It's just one of those picks that you want to save your first one for the Tristana or the Seraphine, whatever's available. And as it turns out, neither of which is going to be available from Dignitas Mirage.
No, I'm a bit sad that we do see the Darius ban so quickly. I was kind of hoping that maybe Cloud9 Academy didn't do the full research on the Dignitas Mirage, and we were going to see that let through and Dragoon be able to prove to everyone here on the big stage why you banned that away, but not going to. Instead, getting the banned alongside that Syndra. That is another pocket pick. Well, not even pocket pick. It's a pretty strong meta pick right now, but it's something DNA loves to play. Since we know that Copy also loves Zoe, it makes sense they want to be able to take that away.
You want to make sure that you have the best possible matchup, and in this case, I think Cloud9 Academy walk away with the strongest jungler besides Hecarim and the Udyr, going to be locked up for the first pick. Gnar going to be banned away from Dignitas Mirage as their final ban. Looks like they're going to respond with the bot lane pickup. I assume that's going to be Jinx and Thresh, more often than not.
I would imagine that,
away
too.
With that. Or
yeah,
possibly
exactly.
the TK.
It's something that you can have weak side bot lane. TK is another thing, but I kind of prefer the Thresh since it is left open. It allows you to be able to have a little bit of that pick potential, the playmaking support in for King, but also gives you a little bit of safety, but they opt not to. Yami has been playing the Skarner a lot. You look over to the last chance qualifier that we had just last week, and Yami was playing this quite a good amount. In fact, I think there was a couple bans that were drawn from this purely for the fact of how well Yami's able to play on this, and having something that can find out someone like King on this Ezreal, even if you dash away, you got to get the QSS. You got to pay the Skarner tax.
It's still a really hard pick to utilize, especially so early in the pick phase, just because you have a team that can just pick around that, get the Ezreals, the Karmas, the Udyrs, things that can run away from the scary Scorpion. And Captain Flowers, if you're in chat right now, please give us a shout out, because I know you love to monitor this sort of gameplay, as Skarner has been locked in, Thresh locked in now, so a reasonably predictable lane coming out of Dignitas Mirage. Let's see what the bans are going to come out. I imagine towards the mid side, as Lucian going to be taken away against Copy.
Lucian, I'm wondering if it is going to be a Zoe ban as well by Dignitas Mirage, if they're really going to try to focus onto that mid lane, since you're not going to be able to have that Syndra to be able to match up against Copy's Zoe, and Copy likes to play that Zoe. With what they've drafted already for Cloud9 Academy, that would really set them up for the Siege Poke composition.
It really does add a lot to this because now you have even less ability as the Skarner. Hiyami's just going to have no fun trying to get in onto a Zoe, especially once she starts hitting that mid-game spike, starts roaming around the map with little to no vision and able to set up the plays that she wants to. The second ban comes in, it's going to be the Jace against Darshan, so trying to set up perhaps Dragoon for the best possible matchup. This is something Dignitas Mirage love to do. Just take red side, use the last pick for Dragoon and give him the best possible early matchup just so he can get rolling and really allow the team to explore exactly what makes them as strong as they are, which is get Dragoon strong, let him go to other lanes.
And the Jace kind of fits into that same narrative that we were setting up with the Siege Poke composition that Cloud9 Academy have already drafted for themselves. But it's interesting to see this. Gangplank is a pick that both Darshan and Dragoon like to play. Whenever Darius's tend to be banned against Dignitas Mirage, they fall back. Wait.
That was locked in, Magical. That
was locked in. No.
That is an original
No.
40 champion right there. Tryndamere going to be locked in for Darshan against Dragoon's Gangplank. What is this pick, Magical?
Holy moly. I mean, the mid lane's pretty standard, but man, Tryndamere. I can't tell you the last time I've seen that. I think the last time we really saw Tryndamere being picked in any meaningful fashion was back when AP Tryndamere was the thing, all the rage before it got heavily nerfed to be able to take that away. Seeing that into Darshan's hands, something that is going to try to split push, is going to be massive. And going up against Dragoon's Gangplank, I'm curious to see how this is actually going to be able to function.
Well, it's a reasonably strong pick, and I feel like Darshan prepared for this because as we wanted to talk about and as we talked about behind the scenes, Magical, Gangplank is just this really good pick for both of them. So I imagine this was a Cloud9 Academy trap to just try to lure Dragoon into picking that Gangplank and then bringing out the surprise counter pick because you can definitely go through the barrels, you can auto attack to your heart's content, and once you hit post 6, the dueling potential is off the charts for Darshan, and I feel like with Kraken Slayer and all the new items that have come with Season 11, this is going to be a really, really strong and terrifying pick if he ever takes off.
Well, see, and that's what I'm wondering. And I'll be honest, I can't tell you exactly how Tryndamere builds right now. I'm curious to see if it's more going to be the stride breaker kind of build path that we've been seeing in things such as Set, such as even looking at like Olaf and how they play. So as we jump onto the Rift for Game 1 here in the Proving Grounds, Cloud9 Academy pulling out the stops fully with that Tryndamere up against Dignitas Mirage. And Dragoon hopefully going to be able to hold his own as the Pirate Lord top lane.
I feel like if we talk about builds, we start to think about what does Tryndamere want to do. I feel like those crit builds are just more effective at this stage, especially against things like the Gangplank, the Jinx, and the Victor. You want to be able to go through the CC and abilities that are going to come out and instantly kill anyone. And also, if you have the crit, you have the ability to split push, especially if you get the early lead. But as we start off into this game, looks like not a lot's going to be happening early on. Both teams starting towards the bot side, likely to put some pressure top, but it could be possible that maybe Schernfire goes for a mid gank, a cheeky early play onto the Orianna. But it's hard to say at this point because both these teams are drafted in ways we haven't seen before.
No, not necessarily. I mean, for the side of Dignitas Mirage,
Sure.
it is a little bit more reminiscent of what we're used to. I was kind of expecting them to give the Jinx over to the side of Cloud9 Academy, saying, all right, we're confident going into something like Caitlyn Morgana bot lane. We know King loves to play that Morgana, Meech loving to play the Caitlyn, but it still fits a similar narrative. Cloud9 Academy, though.
Yeah,
like,
what is that?
This is so interesting. It's really trying to see if they can set up the split push for Darshan. But talk about leaving someone on an island. Tryndamere, he's going to want to be all by himself on this island, pretty much having no friends, no one really to even be able to talk to, no Wilson either.
No, absolutely no volleyballs in this court, as we do see King and Isles getting the early lead on the wave, are able to probably hit level 1 first, but it's going to be close, and I still don't expect any aggression down there, just early off, but as the game starts to progress, that's when the lanes are going to become really dynamic, and it's going to involve all members of both teams coming in.
Especially seeing the pathing coming in from Hiyami, since he is going to be on the top half. He's gone for a full clear on the bottom half of the map. He's trying to match up against Schernfire, which is a bit different than what we usually see. Sometimes we do see Hiyami try to make a play top lane, and you might as well try to make a play into Darshan's Tryndamere before he has ult. but usually it's the bot lane that we've been seeing a lot more from Dignitas Mirage. So I'm curious to see how this is going to be read by Cloud9. If they're going to be able to kind of catch Yami on the top half of the map, be able to get him before he's actually able to make a play elsewhere. Bot lane getting a lot of damage onto Isles. The Blade is stopped with an Ignite as well. No flash finally, but it's going to be first blood picked up by Meech.
Just a nice hook coming out of King, able to get the death sentence into the Flame Chompers, and that's a dead karma if ever I've seen one. Cloud9 Academy get the worst of that, and Dignitas Mirage, they get the first blood off of a single Q landing. No real fancy feat there. Flash was also used, so just full disadvantage going over, and Dignitas Mirage, all they needed was one Q.
I'm really surprised by that one from Isles. He was really greedy in that play. You gotta imagine that if King's going to be able to land any death sentence, it is a death sentence. No flash, no respect out of it, so when he died, it felt like everything was burned for nothing. The heal, flash are now gone for Isles in that bot lane. You've given Meech over first blood onto this Jinx. So now Isles, he was kind of looking to see if he can make a play. Might be able to catch out King since he has no flash either, so they're going to be able to get a little bit of retribution, give that kill back over to King on the other side. While Meech, stunned up by the bear slap, finally flashing away. The flash comes in from Schernfire to get the dive.
Copy also shows up at the very end of that play, but a very nice response coming out of Cloud9 Academy. Isles, knowing that King was completely vulnerable in that situation and down to 2/3 health, comes in with his jungler, gets the first kill, and then Schernfire for the aggressive flash manages to pull out the second. So now Dignitas Mirage find themselves on the back foot against Cloud9 Academy's response.
Yeah, they needed to back off in a far safer position. They thought they can have King where he was, being able to recall, but that nice ward that was placed down by Isles and King earlier on allowed them to be able to catch out them off guard. But right now, we're seeing an attempted play coming in from Yami. Wonder if we're going to see the TP play coming in from Dragoon. Instead, they're just trying to see if they can cut off the retreat coming in from Isles and King. Looking for the root, play back in. King might have the flash away. Here's
Teleport.
the TP, but it's going to be the Darshan.
King
trying to get away, flashing for it, but he's
barrier
alive with a barrier with Darshan in the middle, but he's not level 6. Trying to get the retribution, going to be able to take down Yami. Has the crit, the heal as well, flashing on top of King.
Darshan!
More, but Meech is getting the damage, and he's excited to finally finish him.
The cool guy walking away King, able to just barely kite out the Tryndamere at the very back end of that play. Yami, though, goes down in that, and I would feel like that was an overextension, but the fact that Dragoon didn't show up is a huge surprise. I guess he just wanted to get that early laning advantage more than anything else, but overall, Cloud9 Academy are playing up really, really hard against Dignitas Mirage. I feel like we're seeing a lack of respect here, Magic.
I feel like as well, when we look at this replay, it was a late flash stroke. King's able to survive, but he has to fully retreat, meaning that Darshan 1v3. Sure, he almost turns it around and gets 2 kills 1v3. But at the same time, he doesn't. He only gets the 1 kill. Meech was able to get himself his 3rd kill on this Jinx. Sure, only sitting on the Berserker's Greaves right now, but the Jinx Snowball is already a real threat now. You've got to shut her down, because she's going to keep scaling and be that much more devastating if you can't stop it at all.
And I like this trend coming out of the build from Meech, is building the Berserker's Greaves first to make sure he has the dodging capabilities against the flashless Schernfire, as well as Isles, who is really only scary if he's able to get and stay in range of the Jinx, which at this point in the game, I'm thinking is kind of unlikely.
That is a little bit unlikely, unfortunately, for the side of Cloud9 Academy, trying to see if they can take a little bit of control in that bottom lane back. But it's only a temporary retreat, right? Since you have so much gold already accumulated on the side of Dignitas Mirage into the right people, and you can see how safe that Meech is playing at the moment. Just hanging back, waiting it out, unfortunately does mean that they're probably going to lose a lot of control around the Dragon Pick. As you can see, that Schernfire with the level lead over Yami is able to force him away, may even be able to seal the blue buff since they have no control anymore. But with Dragoon's TP up, they could look to be able to make this play. Hex Flash over the wall is going to be the death sentence with rockets on top. That's connect on top of Isles, but it's going to be the shockwave. Pulled back in. Heal. King is the first one to die. Schernfire still in the middle of everyone, trying to see if he can get away, but Yami was taking a lot of damage on the other side as well. So it's only going to be the 1 kill coming in from the side of Cloud9 Academy.
once again, just waiting on that teleport. Dragoon thought the ult would be enough, but the Cannon Barrage doesn't really do a lot of damage, especially at this point in the game. Feels like there could have been more of a response from Dignitas Mirage, but they didn't want to overextend against Cloud9 Academy in the first game. Cloud9 Academy, they just go in for the invade. You can see Schernfire picking up the Spire, picking up the blue buff, and then fighting right at that entrance into the blue buff, making sure that there was no surround capable by Dignitas Mirage, and ultimately great positioning coming out of the blue side.
It really was. And this is kind of what we were setting up before. It's the fact that even though Meech has gotten a lot of the gold and it looks good, they just didn't have the control. It was a temporary reprieve for Cloud9 Academy, and they took full advantage of that. They're able to see how far that Dignitas Mirage would push back in, mid lane as well. Xiaomi only being level 5 in that entire exchange meant that there was not going to be the Impale to be able to draw someone back in. It was a great punish and a great read from Cloud9. But now we need to see them continue that. Since you have Meech, he's been able to recall, buy some more items. He's actually going to be able to back up a little bit more of that damage. And they've even gotten a slight push to possibly get themselves at least one plate worth of gold over to their ADC.
And I feel like Meech is going to be the only win condition available because DNA hasn't really gotten a chance to take off yet. Dragoon is pretty far behind Darshan at this point in the game. And really, we just can't wait around a whole lot because Cloud9 Academy, based on their playstyle, loves to go extremely hard into the team fight and skirmish phases of the game around 15 minutes. So once those start, I feel like Dignitas Mirage are going to be out of sorts.
Right now, Schernfire, since he does have a 2-level lead over Xiaomi on this Udyr, that is kind of the nature of the beast, isn't it? Udyr is someone who clears out these waves so fast, the jungle is so easy for him, that it's easy for him to make that play. But I do like this from Dignitas Mirage. The fact that they were able to rotate, they sent Meech King since there wasn't really anything that they felt confident enough on the bottom half of the map to retain and try to see if they can flex their position, which meant that they were able to scare away Schernfire from the Rift Herald, giving that over to Xiaomi, where now he might be able to get a little bit more gold and experience back for himself.
Very nice heads-up play coming in from Dignitas Mirage. As you said, they picked up the Rift Herald, and this could probably lead to a mid-push into Dragon if Dignitas play their cards right. However, Cloud9 Academy, they are circling around this bot side and even starting off the Infernal Dragon. That seems aggressive, but at the same time, Dignitas Mirage don't have any vision, so this is going to be pretty clean.
That's the hard part. And look where Meech and King are right now. They're pushed so far back. You can even see there's a ward behind them that was placed down by Cloud9. So if they even tried to enter that tri-bush right there, they'd be completely spotted out. A great read from Cloud9 Academy, where they're able to get these little leads. You know, it's just adding up slowly. You can even see that from the gold, where it's 4 kills to 3 kills. It doesn't seem like it's that big. And you got 3 kills on the Jinx, right? But we're at a 1,000, nearly 500 gold deficit for Dignitas Mirage that they're trying to see if they can climb themselves out of.
It's going to be, again, a rough road. Not impossible, because I like the scaling that they've drafted into. Specifically, the Victor, Gangplank, and Jinx just has so much potential. Xiaomi just has to get that early pick, because if he doesn't find one in the next couple of minutes, it feels like the Skarner's going to fall off really, really hard and be completely unable to make a difference against this Cloud9 Academy draft.
Good, but the thing I do also like about Skarner is, what does he do best besides impaling someone? He becomes a tank. And he can stand in front and be able to absorb a lot of that poke potential out of Cloud9, where he's absorbing a lot of the pressure that allows Dignitas Mirage members such as you already highlighted, Dragoon, DNA, and Meech to be able to get a lot of that damage from the side from a safe distance, while Xiaomi's the one absorbing all the pressure.
And speaking of that top lane, it's been pretty quiet except for a teleport and a single ult used by the respective top laners, but it's about a 5 CS lead right now. It's about to push into Darshan and give him like another 5 to himself. But Dragoon, he's not down by too much gold, if only because he has the Gangplank passive. And even though the kill for Darshan is going to help, it's still just like a scaling Tryndamere. He's not scary quite yet.
Not quite yet. I'm curious to see once he does have that Kraken Slayer complete, how much damage he's able to do. Because it's one of those picks. It's like, you know, at the beginning of the season when Udyr was first picked, everyone was really surprised. Speaking of Udyr, looking like he's got a catch on a King. Does have the flash to be able to get away. The play's going to be coming in, and it's going to be a shockwave. Oh, caught the take down. King DNA trying to rush the hill. Got the impale they needed to onto Schernfire. Finally flashed away, but he's so difficult to kill. Rocket barely missing him, and Schernfire going to be able to get himself right on out of there.
Easy play, easy pick coming in for Cloud9 Academy. Just go into the jungle, ward up, and get the shockwave down. King goes down, and Dignitas Mirage didn't really have a good answer because the flash was back up for Schernfire.
And look at this now, Meech, even though he's the one who seems to have the lead in the bot lane, is completely forced off of his own turret. That is so much gold picked up by King and Isles in that bot lane to be able to negate that lead that Meech thought he had. And even mid lane, look at DNA. Doesn't have the Chaos Storm. A lot of damage coming in from Copy to keep him pinned underneath the turret. Even with the gravity field, he took so much damage underneath his own turret.
There's just not enough range coming out of Victor. Yes, the laser is going to do a lot, but in order to get that gravity field down, you need to walk forward into Copy's range. So those command attacks and command stuns are going to be really, really effective against a Victor who's just trying to clear out the wave and trying to get some pressure down. But as we look across the map, the pressure very much in Cloud9 Academy's favor. You can see the vision being entirely on the red side. Really, there's just not a lot of places that Dignitas Mirage can look for a surprise attack at the moment.
Not yet. Not yet, at least. They're trying to see if they can just hold on. Since they do have these scaling options, they are going to be a threatening team in the mid to late game. But the fact that they keep losing gold, it seems right now, even though they seem like they're in a great position, this could be bad. The TP's going to be coming in from Darshan to be able to try to get the turn.
Oh, no.
King taking so much damage, flash coming in, but right on top of the rocket. Turnfire's nearly dead.
Oh, got the kill.
Meech is excited, trying to see if he can turn it back around, getting a lot of damage back onto Isles. Zap not going to be able to connect, though. It's a one-for-one trade, which is going to work out well for Dignitas Mirage.
And a well-timed play coming out of Cloud9 Academy. Unfortunately, they just didn't quite have the CC required in order to lock down Dignitas Mirage. They tried to go in against the bot side, which you can't go in against a Thresh and a Jinx. There's so much disengagement capable that they just found themselves out of sorts. Schernfire without flash goes down, and a one-for-one trade from what should have been a pretty easy at least 2-for-0.
It seemed like it, but the thing is, they get the turret, sure it's a one-for-one trade, which does help out Dignitas Mirage a little bit, but they lost ultimately the objective. They lost out since Dragoon was not able to actually take down the tier 1 top lane, meaning they're still further behind in gold, and even looking at where the gold is now placed on each side. Oh, King does have Yami nearby, but he's just dead to rights. Trying to be able to get away. You can see the damage. Isles is on the other side. He might be able to get a little bit of poke. Takes him down, and now they turn their attention on Yami. Going to be able to get the root they needed to with the stun as well. Yami has a couple shields, but just not enough damage. Not enough to be able to survive either. And Schernfire, with his 4th kill of the game, scares away the remaining members of Dignitas Mirage.
The attempt was there. The proactive play, they had a good idea on the side of Dignitas Mirage, but King doesn't have the tankiness yet to go into the enemy jungle, especially when there's no pressure on the map. You saw Dragoon backing. You saw Meech just kind of backing up towards mid. There's no one bot. There's no one who can teleport in and no one to save him if he got caught out like that. So Copy took full advantage, just went in, got the shockwave, and killed King for yet another kill. And Cloud9 Academy are going to get a dragon off of that play.
This is not looking so hot from the bot lane of Dignitas Mirage, where we're really hoping to see both Meech and King be able to keep their own against King and Isles. Well, Meech, he has been doing a good job. Unfortunately for King, it just seems that he's stepping a little bit too far out of line, getting caught out and punished by Cloud9 Academy to make sure that they're getting the gold into their right places, with King, the other King, having an Essence Reaver completed already onto that Ezreal to compete against the Kraken Slayer. You even have the Turbo Chem tank with a lot more of the components over from Schernfire to Yami. It's allowing them to be in a great position here in this mid game, where inside of Dignitas Mirage, they're trying to get some stuff back, such as another Rift Herald, but they gotta use it better than they used the last one, that's for sure.
They do need to actually make a difference. It would be great if they managed to put this mid, but Cloud9 Academy have already set up in this lane. They know that that's where Dignitas Mirage has the greatest possible advantage, so they're not going to let it happen. They're just going to camp up the mid, make sure they have Tryndamere on the split push, and anyone that answers bot lane, well, you can send Copy. He has his teleport up and can answer anything that Dignitas Mirage try to do right now.
Sam, I'm more now trying to think what Dignitas Mirage could do to be able to get back into this game. We know that they have the scaling aspects in their composition, but it feels like those are kind of answered by Cloud9 Academy. They got Darshan on the split push. They have it where they look like they're going to be able to punish Dragoon, trying to be able to get away from Schernfire, who's just so tanky at this moment. And he could easily go for this dive with the Mocking Shout, and they even have the flank coming in from Isles. Want to be able to get the kill over to Darshan. He's got Undying Rage. I think he's going to be able to pop to survive that dive.
And just another play set up by Cloud9 Academy. The main thing Dignitas Mirage might have had is if Copy were to overextend, but he didn't. He stayed at his tier 2 tower. He was able to stay completely out of range of Hiami, so there's no response play from Dignitas that was possible. And even though they have members mid, it's not going to be enough. You still have Darshan who can roam on down, Schernfire who's pretty quick and, as you said, pretty tanky. The only possibility is to maybe set up a death bush somewhere in their own jungle, but that's still so risky for Dignitas Mirage.
Even though, yeah, they do have those pick elements. King can be able to catch someone with a death sentence. You can get impaled. Oh, that poor Meech. He just wants to be able to recall and spend some of his gold. But yeah, going back to Hiami, he's going to be someone who could also make a pick if necessary. But they're just not able to survive. And look at how far behind they are. You have 2 items now completed by King 1 on Cloud9's side compared to still some components worked up by Meech. And then you look at the jungle, as I already highlighted before. The Dead Man's Plate has been completed by Schernfire to continue to be able to outpace Yami.
It's just such a series of unfortunate things happening for Dignitas Mirage, and there's another one.
No flash eye. The Dragoon's dead to rights. 5th kill for Schernfire, too.
There's just no safety anymore for Dignitas Mirage. The jungle does not belong to them. There's no vision that could be put down. Cloud9 Academy just have this entire surround on the top side of the map, and with 2 dragons already under their belt and a Baron spawning up in about a minute and a half, it's going to be so tough for Dignitas Mirage to find any footing in this match.
Interesting. Gale Force for Tryndamere. I was wondering what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be the Kraken Slayer, but Gale Force just for that added bit of damage and being able to survive in the side lane if he is caught out a bit too far. But right now, it doesn't feel like he's going to have to worry too much. Not with Copy taking down the tier 2 in the bot lane. Freedom top side to be able to constantly push in if he needs to. Well, sure, Dignitas Mirage popped the Rift Herald mid lane. Didn't even get the crack that tier 1, and that's where it all might fall apart because they have a long lane to be able to get back in. They have the pick on the Copy. He flashed away to try and
Copy's dead.
Survive. He's dead, and it was a cannon barrage that picked up the kill for Dragoon. The rest of Cloud9 Academy trying to be able to get away from this. They should be able to survive. True Shot Barrage gets a little bit of damage onto King, but not as much as they would have liked to. Darshan is on the flank. They could look for this play. Has Undying Rage, but they're waiting it out. They're not exactly sure if they're going to be able to make the play, unless, of course, Meech steps a little bit too far forward. And look at Darshan. Oh, he died before he had Undying Rage. Meech barely survives.
That R button might be the most elusive to Tryndamere players, and Darshan is no exception, just dying outwardly to the turret and the flay coming out of King. Meech thought it looked like he was caught for just a quick second, but with some very quick thinking, was able to just flash and heal under turret. Felt like a misplay more than anything else, though.
Yeah, just a little bit. Not using Undying Rage there. But then again, people always forget. I think it's when you are CC'd, you can't use it. So it might have been a case like that where Darshan was like spamming it. It wasn't working right away because he was locked down for too long and died before he had the chance. But either way, doesn't seem like they're going to be punished for it. The Dragon's still secured by Cloud9 Academy. Dignitas Mirage are trying to see if they can get, little bits back across the map. They're having this push coming in from DNA in the top lane to be able to get a little bit of gold back for himself, since he does actually have a sizable CS lead over Copy, but unfortunately, these are just, silver linings. It's what they're able to find elsewhere, but they're losing out so much on this map. They've gotten themselves in this hole where they have to find a way to be able to fight against Cloud9 Academy once this next dragon spawns, and that means that Cloud9 Academy are the ones in full control of the tempo and the pace of this game.
They're in control, and there's really not a whole lot they can do to give it up. They might go back on a weird timing, but Cloud9 Academy, not usually known for that, and give up Baron. They might lose out on a single dragon, but with 3-0, I feel like Dragon Soul is an inevitability more than anything else with 20 minutes into the game. And the vision that's been coming out from Cloud9 Academy has been stellar this entire game. Dignitas Mirage don't really have any answers right now. They just keep going into the jungle and finding depth.
And this is kind of what we wanted to have answered by Cloud9 Academy, since we haven't really seen them play in quite some time, at least, publicly. Of course, we imagine they've been scrimming and working on everything behind the scenes, but being able to see them bounce back, since the last time we saw them was on 11-3. Here on 11-6, how they're able to play, and busting out a Tryndamere. What a way to be able to kind of show themselves in these proving grounds as this top team by putting Darshan onto a pick that I think has only been seen twice this entire year in any league at all. And I'm not talking about like, you know, just major regions. I'm talking about like all the secondary and third string leagues in like Europe and all across the world.
And even solo queue. You don't see Tryndamere all that often, but what I have seen in the, I think, 3 games that I've seen Tryndamere this season is the Navori Quick Blades coming out as the second full item, because it just gives him so much ability to spin to win. Also gives him a little bit more healing, as his Q is going to be up more often. So great build coming out. And
Hawking Shout, but that's going to be the Chaos Storm. And look at Hiyami
Press
on the
R.
other side. Might want to wait. He goes back in, but it's going to be the stun that they need to lock him down. But the Navarre Quick Blade finally drawing him back in. Laser Pointer Frisbee kill given over to the side of Hiyami.
Well done by Dignitas Mirage. Have 2 members always. Never send a member by themselves, especially to a solo lane at this point in the game, because you never know where Darshan's waiting, and he was just able to
No.
No, my goodness!
Oh, he's barely alive. That was double digits.
That got scary for DNA, but you know,
dead.
All things aside, they made the right play. They were able to get Tryndamere, and also a very beautiful CC chain coming on from Hiyami, able to lock down Tryndamere throughout the entirety of Undying Rage. Nothing he could do there, as DNA laid down the damage and made it impossible for him to heal up.
This reminds me back in the olden days of old Poppy, back when she had diplomatic immunity as her ult, where she was this great, powerful champion, right? If she clicked her R onto any like support or anything, except for ones that had a lot of CC, because all you do is lock her down forever, so that once she was finally vulnerable, you can kill her. And that's kind of what it reminded me of right there, where Hiyami's just like, all right, we're just gonna lock you down, and you're not allowed to move until your ults finally run out, in which case we'll kill you then.
Well, you know, the response to that, Darshan gonna be picking up a No Magic Mantle. I have to imagine that that's gonna become a QSS, and he's gonna pay the Scorpion tax as well.
Yeah, gotta pay your taxes, people. Always gotta pay your taxes against Skarner, because he'll collect them one way or another, and we've already seen him collect that a couple times out of Darshan. But still, regardless of that, we have a 6,000 gold lead for Cloud9 Academy. They've got themselves 3 dragons. They're just waiting it out. Another minute and 20 seconds until the next dragon will spawn. It's going to be an Ocean Soul as well. And that will allow them to be able to take a lot of the damage, any poke that could come in from Dignitas Mirage, reset these fights, and wait it out to slowly siege down Dignitas Mirage as their composition is apt to do.
It feels like there's just a little bit coming through from Dignitas Mirage. They've gotten the picks that they needed to. Cloud9 Academy have overextended, as is expected, to be honest. It's happened many times throughout the regular season for this team. But we're still in the danger territory, where if Darshan ever gets time alone in a lane, he's going to take an inhibitor, and if there's a team fight, Cloud9 Academy still would come out the victors, given their gold advantage.
I still can't believe we're seeing a Tryndamere. First game of Proving Grounds, too. It's like, maybe, you know, like, further down in where teams are really reaching, but here, first game that we start off, we got a spicy pick like this, and you know what? This is something that makes me happy. I like my spicy picks. Everyone knows that about me. Right now, teams like Dignitas Mirage are not able to deal with the heat. Pushed back in. Dragoon's topside, trying to see if he can rotate around, but Darshan's been able to completely dominate and take over the top half of the map. Jungle getting himself a red buff, looking for a flank onto Dignitas Mirage. They're even waiting to see if they can get a lot of damage onto Yummy. Shockwave flashed away, but he still killed off King. Trying to be able to get himself away, but he's chased down by Darshan and Fire on the other side. Darshan, now it's the Undying Rage to be able to survive. Getting damage back onto Dragoon. Looking for the dive. DNA's next dive. They do get the kill onto one, but they're losing everyone else. They're pinned back underneath the turret. It's only Meech alive. He's trying to clear out the minions the best he can, but it's all too little. Look at King. He's going for the full dive with a triple kill.
And with so much poke, Cloud9 Academy were just able to mess up the health bars coming out of Dignitas Mirage, get Hiyami down almost instantly before the fight started. And Darshan, he baited them perfectly. He comes in, he has little to no health, pops the Undying Rage, and Dignitas Mirage find themselves overextended. They go down, they lose Dragon, they're gonna lose Baron, and Magical, I can't help but feel like there's little to no avenues for them to get out of this game.
It's pretty much a miracle. What they need is, if Meech was still alive, a rocket Hail Mary thrown towards the Baron to be able to seal that away, but unfortunately, probably not likely to happen. Yami might have to be the person to get the steal for the team. waiting to see if they can get over the wall. But look at the damage coming in from King, taking down the other King. Looks like we know who the real royalty is here in this party. He's going to be able to get the
teleports.
Oh, wait a minute. It's going to be the rocket on the other side. Too late. Not going to be able to help out the shockwave onto Dragoon, trying to be able to get away, but Bear Slap's done. Makes it so that Copy takes him down, and King over on the other side of the wall, fighting against TNA, but he's locked down, has the barrier, trying to get some help. Miles is
Darshan!
Time with a double kill picked up by Copy.
And Cloud9 Academy just go back to the Baron. They take 3 kills, they lose absolutely nothing, and everything is looking pretty Gucci for the blue side. They're going to take away this Baron. Tryndamere is going to continue pushing top lane, and Dignitas Mirage, another play that was just barely out of their reach. Dragoon overextends, DNA also just goes down in the process, and Kiami, he can't get any pressure on this team.
No, he can't. Unfortunately, he's trying so hard to be able to get back there, but you can still see it in his items how far behind he is. He's just not at the tanky Skarner point that he needs to be able to absorb that damage that we were talking about earlier, where he can be the front line. And until then, you see how easy it is for Cloud9 Academy to be able to eviscerate them. They poke out Kiami, who's supposed to be their front line, before he's even able to use his own ult onto any member of Cloud9.
And here's the thing about Darshan's pick. This Tryndamere is able to split push. He doesn't even need pressure from the other lanes yet. He's able to just stay in mid, get 4 members onto him, and then wait for the rest of his team to go to another lane. There's so much time that Cloud9 Academy can buy with this Baron that Dignitas Mirage, they don't have any strategy left. They just have to hold as long as they can.
And look at this, you have 3 QSSs now built up. Kiami realized
Oh,
that
no.
as he tried to go back in and get to the lantern, but Fire doesn't want to be able to follow that up. No, instead, they already had the door opened up in mid lane so they can take down their first inhibitor of the game. Well, 4 members of Dignitas Mirage watch in awe, knowing they can't start Darshan, nor can they stop Fire with the next turret falling to the top lane. Dignitas Mirage, you better do something quick, because this game might end if you just sit back and relax, waiting it all out. This is the next turret. It's going to be the Cannon Barrage finally used, but they already lost one of the turrets. Yami is locked down, trying to be able to get back again. But look at how much damage he took back. He has to get all the way to the fountain just to be able to survive, with the Baron now harassing the final next turret. Cloud9 Academy want to be able to get game 1 of
Shockwave!
Man, Shockwave to end it all. Taking down Dignitas Mirage in game 1.
What a game coming out of Cloud9 Academy. They lost the first blood, but that was about the only time they looked bad in this entire game, Magical. They had control from start to finish, and they were able to close that out convincingly after an obscure pick in the Tryndamere.
The Tryndamere sure wasn't necessarily the highlight of their entire team. No. Well, it was fun to watch. The rest of Cloud9 Academy were on top of the game. They died first blood bot lane, sure, but after that, they really showed why this is the top team in the academy, why this is the team that was able to get the #1 seed going into Proving Grounds.
And especially if you're coming in with a draft that just looks so modular, so many things that can go in and out of this composition, Dignitas Mirage really have to fire back with something special. It felt like they weren't playing towards their normal play style. Dragoon, he was on an island the entire time. It felt like he was farming instead of playing with the team. And I feel like Dignitas Mirage, without Dragoon's presence, just doesn't feel as strong as they did in those playoffs.
It was a bit different from what we'd expect out of Dragoon. It was Darshan, the first one to make those TP plays, trying to be able to help out the bot lane. We normally see Dragoon, sure, Gangplank, you could make the argument that Gangplank doesn't really want to do that. He wants to be able to get level 6 Cannon Barrage elsewhere. But when you have a Tryndamere who's able to show up bot lane, 1v3, nearly get himself 2 kills at level 5, he wasn't even level 6 then, you gotta stop him. You gotta put a halt to that immediately, because as Gangplank, you're now no longer really going to be able to fight against that Tryndamere.
Really, it was just an inability of Dignitas Mirage to do anything to this Tryndamere based on draft. Yes, you have the Skarner, but that's only good 1v1. When you have a Karma, Ezreal, and Orianna fighting against you, there's just not a lot of pressure that you can put down. There's not a lot of chances you have in order to get that Impale. Without it, it just felt like Kiami couldn't do anything the entire game.
Exactly. It was just a bit unfortunate coming in for Dignitas Mirage in game 1, but Cloud9 Academy proving to everyone why they're the #1 seed. They're now up 1-0. Starting off Proving Grounds, we're going to toss to a break. When we come back, we'll get ready for game 2, so stick around.